I am 170 pounds and I don't feel too good for it. Okay, the program is over. Last Friday it finished. And I think a great success, considering the constraints and restrictions that were imposed, in that we only had 6 weeks to achieve the aim, and also that all the training was done remotely, because myself and the student are on different continents, not even in the same country, not even in the same continent. So everything, all the advice and encouragement and training was done remotely. So that made it slightly more challenging, and it made it more reliant on the student having the discipline to train as we'd agreed they would train, to follow the diet that we agreed they would follow, and to stick with the program that we had devised. Okay. With these things, you always look at the end. Did we achieve our aim? Yes or no? If we did, great. Is there any way that we can enhance it in the future? And also, what were the specific reasons that we did achieve our aim? If we didn't, where did we fall down? What particular event or circumstance led us to fail to achieve that aim? Okay. Now, with anything health and fitness related, there's really 2 areas that we break this down to. And one is lifestyle, which essentially looks at what you put in your body, and the other one is exercise. Okay. We had 6 weeks. Now, what you can't achieve in 6 weeks is to build a significant amount of muscle, if any at all, depending on your age and condition and genetics. Also in 6 weeks, virtually impossible to lose a noticeable amount of fat, again, dependent on a lot of factors, but fat and muscle take a long time to build and to lose. So in 6 weeks, we were limited to what we can do. Also, it's virtually impossible, unless you use performance enhancing drugs or are one of the 0.1% of people who have the correct genetics, it's virtually impossible to lose fat and gain muscle. Okay, let's not confuse fat and body weight. They're 2 different things. Okay, fat is just one of the things that goes to make up your body weight. Okay, including bone density, lean muscle, fluid. Okay, they all make up your weight. So in 6 weeks, you can maybe add some lean muscle, maybe lose a bit of fat. But let's not forget, the main aim of this was to take an individual and within 6 weeks, get them to a point at which they feel more confident stepping onto a beach in their trunks. Now, what we can do in 6 weeks is we can really strip down the amount of excess fluid in the body and the amount of inflammation. And we don't do that via exercise, we do that via what we put in our body. Not necessarily how much of it we put in our body, but what we put in our body. Okay? The human body is really, really good at regulating fluid levels. But in the last few hundred years, humans eat far more carbohydrate than really the body needs. And in the last maybe 25, 30 years, we're eating far too much refined carbohydrate. It's laboratory processed, nutritionally devoid rubbish to make food look better, taste better, and last longer. Okay, the body doesn't like it. For every gram of this carbohydrate you ingest, your body can hold up to 4 grams of fluid. So we're going to be walking around carrying a lot more fluid, and what that does, A, it can sit around our organs, and B, it can sit under our skin. So if it sits around our organs, it makes our midriff look bulkier, which takes away from the look that we're after. And if it sits under our skin, it gives us a puffy look, so we have no definition. So if we can get rid of a lot of this excess fluid, what that does is it means that it will show the musculature we've already got, and it will shrink our waist and it will shrink our stomach, okay, without doing anything else, irrespective of exercise. All right. The other thing is inflammation. People nowadays eat far too much processed food. The problem with processed food is the body doesn't like it and it treats it as an attack. So what happens is the body sends out white blood cells, and you get inflammation like you would do if you got an infection. And again, what that does is it makes the body swell up. It takes even more fluid and the body swells up both viscerally, which is internally around the organs, and subcutaneously, which is under the skin. All right. So what we can do in 6 weeks, purely by changing our diet, is getting rid of a lot of that inflammation and getting rid of a lot of that excess fluid. And what that does is it reveals the musculature we've already got. Okay, 6 weeks isn't long enough to build more muscle, if any, but what we can do is expose what we already have. So the program that I designed, if we're going to try and lose a little bit of body fat, but that's just going to be by calorie reduction, nothing else, and we're going to get rid of some water and we're going to get rid of inflammation, we need to maintain muscle mass. We can't aim to build it, because if you're trying to build muscle mass, you can't lose body fat, okay? Because the way that you eat and train for both of those is completely different. If you want to add muscle mass, you need to be eating more calories than you use. If you want to lose fat, you need to be consuming less calories than you use, okay? The two don't go together. So we want to maintain muscle mass. So the program that we followed was essentially a weight training program. So we're looking to stimulate muscle growth or muscle maintenance with our training, and to keep it interesting and to keep us focused, but also to support our diet, which is going to reduce inflammation and going to reduce excess fluid. Now, the training program had to be long enough and intense enough to trigger the chemical reactions in our body that we need, but it can't be long enough or too intensive that the body goes into shock and starts to overproduce adrenaline and overproduce cortisol. So that's why we work this program to train in each major muscle group twice a week for about 45 minutes a time. We used increased time under tension, and by doing that, it meant that we didn't have to use as heavy weight. So there was less chance of an injury, and again, less chance of spiking adrenaline and cortisol. And we just let the diet do the work. The most inefficient way, and bearing in mind with only 6 weeks, everything we do must be super efficient because we've only got 6 weeks. So the training has to be just right. The diet has to be just right. We need to fuel the body enough to recover and to rebuild any muscle tissue that was lost, but not so much that we're going to hold excess fluid, inflammation, or put on body fat. So, did we run a diet that gave us a calorie deficit? Yes, but only a slight one. Only 250 calories less than what our maintenance level is. So I'll give an example. For me, my maintenance level is around 2,000 calories a day, okay? It's probably higher for people who are younger, but as we get older, our metabolism slows down, we need less calories. So I was consuming 1,750 calories. But of that, very little was carbohydrate. The bulk of it was protein, and there was also some fats in there as well, because you need the fats. There's a million and one reasons why we need to take in fat, good healthy fats. They're a part of almost all processes in the body. So yes, there was a slight calorie deficit, but only enough to try and assist some fat loss along the way. Okay, if the sole aim would have been fat loss, then the training program and the diet would have been slightly different, but you're still limited to what you can achieve in 6 weeks. All right, muscle gain and fat loss are long term. They need an investment over a significant period of time, 6 months for instance. However, that wasn't our aim. Our aim was to look better. And the way that we're going to be able to do that in 6 weeks is to drop excess fluid and to reduce inflammation. And the way we do that is by eating far less carbohydrate and eating a cleaner diet that has no processed foods in it. Once you do that, the change is virtually instantaneous. Okay, literally within the first week, you step on the scales again and you've dropped a load of weight. And then this continues, and then literally in the last week, the transformation was quite surprising. The last of that excess fluid is coming away. The last of that inflammation pops, you know, and it's not uncommon for people to lose an inch off their waist by day. Once the ball starts rolling and the body starts using fat as an energy source, because the carbohydrate is only there to recover. So 6 weeks, I think a resounding success. My body changed significantly from before to at the end. The caveat to that was, before that 6 weeks, I ate myself up to the same weight as the student. So I took 4 weeks to put on 7 kilos, which meant eating a lot of bad food. So my starting weight was a little false, okay, because it wasn't my natural weight, and it was literally, in 4 weeks I'm not putting any fat on, it was literally all excess fluid. So for me, that was slightly unrealistic. It was a little bit fake, but the results from the student were not far off the same as mine, in that they literally, it looked like someone was wearing a big duvet jacket at the start and at the end was wearing a tight fitting t-shirt. That's how much their body changed. So we achieved our aim, and we achieved it in 6 weeks. 6 weeks is a short period of time to increase lean muscle mass or lose body fat, but it's an ideal period of time that you can sustain an intense training program and sustain a quite disciplined diet. All right, if you go beyond 6 weeks, if you look at 12 weeks, yeah, you can lose some fat, lose more fat, but it's so much harder to stick to a strict diet and training program for longer periods of time. Okay, what we're going to do next, you'll have to wait and see. But 6 weeks to beach, signing out.